Judge Haggerty, whenever you're ready, please. That's right. Judge Haggerty, since you're there, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Dunbar needs water.
You're so obedient.
Pam, would you please make note that everybody is here with the exception of Ms. Quintanilla.
Hey, you, Doc.
Before we go to item 1.3, I'd like to say that our thoughts and prayers are with Ms. Quintanilla's grandson. I'm sure that Dr. Serrata will mention it, but I understand he went home 2 days ago, and so that's a great sign. So, Ms. Quintanilla, I hope you know that you're in our thoughts and prayers, you and your family. Item 1.3, approval of minutes, September 17th.
Move to approve.
Second. Aye.
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 At this time, we'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting, and especially my colleagues from Socorro ISD. Mr. Hallington, our new assistant principal for Socorro High School, welcome. Mr. Fraga, our chief academic officer, welcome. And Mr. George Thomas, who is in charge of all our CATE, welcome.
Okay, Pam, 1.6.
Item 1.6, presentations by individuals, groups, and organizations. Item 1.6.1, Mr. Tommy Carrillo of the El Paso Baseball Hall of Fame will present a donation to the El Paso Community College baseball team.
A donation.
Welcome, Mr. Carrillo.
Tommy
Mr. Carrillo, before you do any presentation, would you give us a little background on the donation and on your organization?
Okay. All right. Basically, since baseball has been really good to us, we're trying to give back to our community. And this year we held a golf tournament, and the benefit that we chose was community college baseball. And we actually raised approximately, well, we're donating $3,500 to the college here and the baseball program.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great. Miss
I have a question.
Gonzalez, yes.
Is this going to be for the baseball players, softball players, or earmarked?
This is earmarked. We presented a letter back in May, I think, and this was going to be earmarked specifically for baseball. Okay. And since we are a baseball organization, we're trying to give back to the baseball community, is what we're doing.
Does it have limitations, or can we spend the money, they spend the money, or whatever?
Well, there's no limitations. We're going to present it. It's made out to El Paso Baseball Athletics or El Paso Community College Athletics. Okay. And then the memo, it's specifically to go to the baseball program, and how you guys decide how to spend that will be up to coach and the other administrators in charge of the money.
Dr. Graham, but obviously it's with the approval of Ms. Gonzalez and Mr. Dunbar as far as how they're going to spend those funds. But thank you very much. It's great to see a community organization take pride in our baseball team and do something specifically for them. So Thank you very much, Mr.
Well, it went over really well, and Coach Dominic did a great job with his kids also participating in this thing. And we would like to continue the support if that is okay with the board and everybody else.
But we appreciate the support, Mr. Carrillo. Would you mind introducing the other two gentlemen with you?
Yes, sir. We have Larry Hernandez here, and Larry is our past immediate president of the Baseball Hall of Fame,
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
and of course, Coach Dominic Bouvier.
Coach, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I only have one question, Mr. Chairman. Is this what is it, Title IX, where you got to get both the girls and boys or whatever? Does this all meet that requirement, Mr. Dummer?
A person making a donation, they're not a governmental entity. They can describe or put limitations on or what they wish. So we are, as a governmental entity, a subdivision of the state of Texas, we are obligated to adhere to Title IX. But if somebody wants to make a donation to a specific athletic event or sport, they may. Now, I don't know if their intention, I guess this is a good time to ask, is the intention just for baseball or is it for baseball and softball?
It's for baseball.
Okay.
And is the baseball all male?
Duh. Yes.
I don't know, Coach, do you have any females?
I mean, I'm sure there's females that can play.
I just want to make sure we're not going to.
No, you may accept a gift that has, it's
20
earmarked for.
20 years ago, they passed this baseball thing here at the college, and they had no clue that they also had to have softball. when
That's
they
because you
passed
were
it.
on the board. We had a clue.
I wasn't on the board.
Yeah, I believe some others were not as
Excuse me,
clueless
Doctor.
as some.
I was not here, but
Ms.
I just want
Gonzalez,
to make sure that we're covered, that the little boys
You are
and the little
covered.
girls all get the same. So that
Don't
we're
call
not in
them
trouble.
little girls, Mr. Haggard.
Dr. Serrata, would you please ask Ms. Gonzalez to put this on the agenda next month to accept a donation so Coach could have access to the funds?
Chair, absolutely. We'll move forward.
We can accept it now?
Because I don't
Well,
want
we can
I don't
accept
want
the
to have
check,
to come
but
back here
Coach,
later
on the
and say,
agenda.
well, that's not the way it's supposed to work.
They may make a donation as they
I mean,
will.
next month we could have the softball team in here complaining that they didn't get a donation.
At that point,
Mr. Chairman.
Judge Haggerty can have a fundraiser for them.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that first of all, let me thank you for being so generous to make this contribution to our baseball group. I believe it is only proper that we accept the gift at this time and that this institution then further looks into, we will abide by the desires of the donor, but we will make sure that we have all our teeth.
Ms. Robles, this is no different than when people give donations. Sam's gives
Exactly.
donations
So
to the
I
Hispanic
think
Heritage Foundation.
There shouldn't
right?
be a question of whether we accept or not.
Right,
I
thank
think it's just thank you, we accept,
Gotta
and
make sure that
we
it's-
look forward to further contributions.
Yes,
I
thank
just
you, Ms.
don't
Robles.
want the softball team in here next month yelling and screaming
Well,
because they didn't.
Mr.
get it.
Haggerty, your newfound interest in Title IX is to be commended. but
Now that he has granddaughter?
but I think we'll be okay, especially with what Mrs. Robles stated.
I just want to make sure that everything's okay.
Thank you, Judge.
And I have a question quickly. Thank you very much also for the contribution. Is this a one time deal, or is this something that the baseball team can
No, ma'am.
look forward to?
That's what I was asking you. I actually came and talked to you back in May, and we submitted a letter of approval
Remember that, uh-huh.
that this money be allocated strictly to baseball. And I don't know why we're talking about
I hope
this
there's
now.
no softball players in here tonight.
But
They may be looking for your car.
they can have it. I don't know if you've seen my car. They can have it. I'll donate that to them.
Coach, there you got a new car.
But yes, for the future, we are looking at working together with community college and continue. This is our first annual golf tournament, and we want to. It was such a good success and a lot of compliments about how everything went. The kids are out there working the tournament too. They were out there helping out, and Coach went out and did a lot of work on as far as getting advertising signs too. So, and then Mr. Fred Loya donated $1,000 on top of what we raised, which came out to the $3,500, because it would have been about $2,500. But he went ahead and contributed that to us so we could give it to you all.
But what is
Yes.
this money going to be used for?
Whatever they want.
It'll be used for scholarships. It'll be used for the students. It'll go back to the students.
So it is going to go in for scholarship.
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Fierro play golf?
No, I didn't play.
You didn't get invited?
Yes,
I was
he did.
invited, but I couldn't. Is that, well, we can expand on that later.
I just want to make sure that we're not going to get nothing more mean than an upset woman that doesn't get her share of the pie.
At this point, we should cut the conversation and save Judge Haggerty.
I think
Just want to make sure
you're
that
digging a deeper
everybody's
hole.
covered here. I don't want any excitement next month where we have all those softball players in here complaining that they didn't get a piece of the pie.
I would say you've almost ensured their attendance by.
Mr. Carrillo,
comments.
please, we're very gracious. Thank you very much for the contribution. I'm sure that the coach, Ms. Gonzalez, will come up with a great plan on how the funds are invested in the team. And if somebody wanted to underwrite for the cross-country team or the softball team, I'm sure that Judge Haggerty would love that
So
also.
you're writing a check, Mr. Fierro, to the softball team?
Absolutely, Judge Haggerty. Just like you wrote a check for Hispanic Heritage. So thank you very much, Mr. Carrillo.
Okay, we're going to have our annual meeting 2 weeks from today. Would it be good to say that we can continue this work with you all as far as our golf tournament and the
Absolutely.
donation to the baseball program?
I do not believe that anybody up here would turn down a donation to support.
I don't have a problem with the donation. I just want to make sure that we got all our T's crossed and our I's dotted.
You know, sometimes he doesn't show up early enough, and the open forum and all that goes a lot smoother.
Mr. Carrillo, yes, thank you very much,
Okay,
sir.
well, thank you very much, and
Thank you.
the check is right here.
Trying to stick up for the females of this college.
And Chair and members of the board, we can accept the check and then put it on the consent docket for next month, which is what we'll move forward with.
So do we need a motion to do that?
No, next month.
Or is it?
Well, I'm going to get him involved with it. I'm going to work with him.
Item 1.6.2, optional presentations will be made by the presidents of the Classified Staff Association, the Professional Staff Association, the Faculty Association, and the Student Government Association.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman of the Board, board members, members of Cabinet, Dr. Serrata, and members of the gallery. My name is Mary Jauregui. I am the newly appointed president of the Classified Staff Association. And I was here at the meeting last month. I sat in the very back. I didn't present because I didn't know if it would be an issue of where the fish were biting or if it was going to be a feeding frenzy. And now I wish I knew how to swim, especially after that last presentation.
We don't bite too hard.
As long as you don't have a donation, you're safe.
No, we come begging for money. What I'd like to do is review some of the accomplishments by the previous council whose term ran from 2012 to 2014. We host an annual turkey drive in which we solicited donations. Like I said, we asked for the money of turkeys and monetary donations so that we can go out and purchase turkeys. And then they are distributed to various nonprofits throughout the El Paso community. Last year, we received a donation of 11 turkeys, $416. With the funds, we were able to purchase an additional 27 turkeys. So we had 38 turkeys that we distributed to the Center Against Family Violence, the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger, the food bank, and the Rescue Mission of El Paso. The current year drive is underway, so anyone who would like to present a donation to the Classified Staff Association, we're more than happy to take that. We'll be accepting donations up into the Monday before Thanksgiving, and you will receive a receipt for anything you donate, whether it's the turkey or cash. We also celebrate the holiday season with the annual Christmas dance, and the funds to promote this dance and to host this dance are generated completely through fundraising activities through the Classified Staff Association, So it's held by classified employees for the entire public. It's open to classified staff, professional staff, faculty, and all members of the El Paso community. And that's underway. That will be held December 19th, Friday. And tickets are available for $10 each at any cashier. We'll be posting the flyers for that soon also. We also have the Emergency Relief Fund. That's a fund that is also funded from revenue from our fundraising activities. And it's to help classified staff employees who find themselves experiencing a financial hardship due to medical emergency or some sort of natural catastrophe. We also hold elections, or actually we solicit nominees for the Employee of the Year. We award a $150 benefit and a plaque to our part-time employee and a $250 award to our full-time employee. Last year's recipients were Mireya Sandoval, part-time employee, and David Rodriguez, full-time employee, both from information technology. We also provide various donations. We also give money. We don't just take it, but we don't give it to EPCC as a whole. So you won't see us presenting a donation here to any particular department. We issued donations to the Visiting Nursing Association. We did support the Hispanic Heritage Scholarship Fund, as well as the EPCC Staff Retreat, and the Soldiers Luncheon sponsored by the Culinary Chefs Department. We are also in the process of hosting various fall festival, Halloween decorating projects throughout the college at individual campuses and here at the ASC. So we hope that you will stop by during the week of Halloween and look at the various decorations that are set up in the hallway in front of the fiscal monitors. The Classified Staff Association also had representation during the bid process for the classification and compensation study that is currently underway here at the college. And we'd like to thank Dr. Serrata and the administration for allowing us to be a part of that process. In most organizations, the classified staff doesn't have representation, so we feel very honored and very proud to be able to have a voice here within the college and to be able to help support and promote college activities that affect not only the employees but also students as well. We were also asked to join the other constituency group representatives, the presidents from the Faculty Senate and the Professional Staff Association, in a meeting to discuss the award, the possible award, or being in the running for the Aspen Institute recognition. And we also participated in a Q&A session with the representatives from Aspen Institute in which they wanted our feedback regarding the El Paso Community College and its impact on the community. We also serve on various committees throughout El Paso Community College. We currently have a CSA representative serving on the Staff Professional Development Committee, as well as working in conjunction with the Professional Staff Association to review the grievance policy and procedure. We hold monthly meetings that are open to the public, and we try to present topics that will be of interest not just to the employees but to the community as a whole. So all our meetings are open to every employee, whether you're faculty, staff, student, professional tech, as well as to the members of the El Paso County. Our topics range from issues of domestic and sexual abuse to active shooter presentations, the recycling program that's held here at EPCC, as well as workplace safety. We are lucky, as I said before, to have an institution that recognizes the role of the classified employees and that promotes us in joining in on various activities. And we have received throughout the years and throughout my involvement with the Classified Staff Association help from various sources. I would like to take the opportunity to recognize our administrative liaison, Mr. Al Lawrence from Grants Management, as well as Dr. Jenny Giron, whose IT department has been instrumental in helping the CSA. Whether she knew it or not, you are all helpful in updating our website as well as getting our classified staff dedicated email on board. Nancy Nelson from Employee Relations and Liz Ryan have been very helpful in answering all our questions that we have regarding policy and procedure pertaining to employee relations, and they're helping us to foster a better working environment between our classified employees and administration. Mr. Fernando Flores, the comptroller for EPCC, has welcomed our involvement of our officers in committees that will help to boost enrollment and recruitment within the college. And Joyce Cordell from marketing. Her staff has been extremely helpful and knowledgeable in helping us to promote our events throughout the college and the community. And we wouldn't be here without the support of our peers, our constituents that we represent. They are the ones that are our drive and our focus, and they are our motivation to try to do good works throughout the college, and again, to foster a better working relationship with all different areas and aspects of the college. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Before you leave, I'd like to, I'll write you a check for $50 for your Thanksgiving fundraiser,
Oh, bless you.
and
Thank you.
I'll get that to Pam this week. And I'd
you'll
like to
receive it.
challenge the rest of the board members, especially on that end, to oh, look at Dr. Graham has to outdo it.
Oh, goodness.
And if anybody who wants to write a check this week, you can get it to Pam, and she'll get the checks to you. Thank you. Please. No, no, no. You.
Come up,
that
Ms.
one.
Howdy. Dr. Ramirez is going to want to check too. Boom, 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 boom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Howdy.
Mr. Fierro, my first name starts with a C, not a K.
Welcome, Dr. Ramirez.
Okay.
I was just telling Judge Haggerty that not to write you a check, that you prefer cash.
Well, if it's doubled, that would be fine. Yes. Good evening, Dr. Serrata and esteemed members of the board. The faculty would like to recognize the fantastic efforts of the diversity program here at the college for its magnificent organization of the Hispanic Heritage Month. The 4 panel discussions were particularly informative, and we also would like to recognize the pre-panel presentations by the students of Ms. Caricel Dukes, who entertained us and educated us with outstanding performances. The month ended with the traditional mentors dinner, honoring Lucy Acosta, Paul Moreno, Dr. Lucy Scarborough, and Denise Chavez. The event was attended by, I might note, the female board members, Belen Robles, Selena Solis, and Carmen Olivas Graham, and our esteemed president, Dr. Serrata. The faculty are always happy to see you at the EPCC events, and we thank you very, very much for your attendance. A subject of grave concern this semester to our faculty is the rescheduling of our faculty development general session, which was moved from the first Monday of Faculty Development Week to a Thursday a few weeks farther into the semester, causing the cancellation of classes for an entire day. The loss of classroom instruction time is totally detrimental to our students and therefore unacceptable to the faculty. We have several alternatives that we are planning to present to Dr. Serrata at a later date, and which we feel would be acceptable to the faculty as well as to the classified and professional staff. And with that, since that is a major issue that we want you to focus all of your attention on, if you'll remember this date, I am completing my presentation. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez.
Board President Fierro, members of the board, President, Cabinet, and members of the community. My name's Dan Gaitan. I'm President of Professional Staff Association. At last month's meeting, I forgot to mention one committee that's very key to our organization. It's the Elections Committee, and that's chaired by Charles Morgan. That committee is in charge of elections, Employee of the Year, and my apologies, I'm forgetting that very important committee and stating the structure of our organization. At our last meeting with Dr. Serrata, we did get a copy of the Dell Secure Works summary, and we're obliged to the study, and we look forward to independent okay on that process moving forward with PSA so we can find closure on that. Commitment has been made for the grievance review. We have that settled, so we're going to move forward with that too. PSA is also reviewing right now. In fact, we just came out of that meeting in which we're selecting we got 50 candidates from our website for the 4 scholarships that we offer, 250 each. So there's a lot of demand for that, and it's interesting reading the summary of students of why they want to get these scholarships. And we think we have the students selected. We're just going to go through another filter of review, and then for the next meeting, we'll have those awards and present it to you as to which students we selected. The classification compensation orientation went well. We're right now in the job assessment stage, in which we've been given a website where you do data entry on what your job is in conjunction with your job description. So that's going well. Also, we've informed membership to please take time and fill that out. And we eagerly await the analysis of that report. And I hear there's from the board minute tonight that Evergreen is also going to present tonight. So that's good. I hear also some membership discussing the sick leave pool. I think our president and our organization discussed that. There's some issues that we can discuss on that, but we'll discuss that with our president and move forward there. As far as fundraising, we are doing still the VIP cards through our fundraising, and we have the fund here if you need that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gaitan.
Item 1.7, communications, none. Item 1.8, Board of Trustees business. Item 1.8.1, the Board of Trustees will deliberate on the adoption of scheduling future board meetings.
I'm going to make a motion and ask for a second so we can have discussion on the item, and then we can vote on it. But I make a motion to pass 1.8.1.
Well, what are we doing? Are we
Well,
changing the date, changing the
we get a
time,
second, then
or-
we can go into discussion.
Second.
Okay, thank you. The reason, Dr. Graham, I put this on the agenda this evening was I'd like to make the recommendation that we move executive from 5 to 5:30. If there's issues or we need to address issues in executive session, we could always do it at any time it comes up. But the reason for that is it'll keep us focused on executive session, and at the end of the meeting we can have our social dinner, because afterwards our dinner's turned into not only executive but some social discussion too. So this way we'll focus directly on executive session issues, then we can go into the agenda. The other issues that I have is we have employees, we have staff that are sitting out here waiting for us to finish executive session at the end. We have members in the audience waiting on occasion for us to approve or disapprove an item that we take back there. So that's the reason I put this on here. I'd like the board to consider passing this. but it's
So
at the will of the
essentially,
board.
we're moving the time of the board meeting from 5:30 to 5?
No, we're moving executive session.
Okay, because you said 5 to 5:30. Did you mean 5:30 to 6 would be executive?
No, we're moving executive session from 5 to 5:30. Right now, we start our board meetings at 5:30.
Right.
And so executive session is at the end of our
Right,
agenda
at the
items.
end.
I'm asking us to consider
we-
moving it from 5 to 5:30 and starting the board meeting at 5:30.
A couple questions, Chair.
Sure.
So say,
Dr. Graham, were you,
Oh, I'm
any other
sorry.
questions?
No, because then essentially, if you want to be at the executive session, you have to be here at 5.
Right.
Which is difficult for some of us that work to get here by 5 o'clock. That's why the meeting was moved to 5:30. So is there a way that we can begin executive session at 5:30?
well, here's a question that I have. We don't always have to have executive session. Isn't that correct, Mr. Dunbar?
That's absolutely correct.
I mean, and so sometimes, I mean, it's conceivable that we might not go into executive session. I mean, I don't think that just because it says executive session, that means we're required to go into executive session only when there's
No.
matters that are pertinent to discussing executive session, right?
That is correct.
So there could be times, I guess what I'm trying to say, Chair, is that we don't really even, there may not be a need for executive session. We might not need to be here at 5. We could start at 5:30. That's the first thing. The second thing is assume that we had some matters to be discussed at executive session and we had it from 5 to 5:30. When would we then, as a body, vote in public on that? Would that be the first part of the agenda, or would that be at the end of the agenda?
Mr. Dunbar can put an agenda item on there.
First of all, you have to, in order to have an executive session, while it could be very brief, you have to assemble as a board and then vote to go into executive session. I mean, that's not a problem. It would be hardly any time. Voting on that, yeah, it would really, your board meeting from a technical standpoint would probably start at 5. Then you go into executive session. Then you come back out whenever you come back out, which your scheduling you're attempting to meet would be 5:30. So I don't think you'd need to reconvene or anything. I mean, anything that's determined in executive session that's deliberated upon, the vote must be taken in public, as I'm sure all of y'all are aware. So I don't see any logistical problem with what's being recommended. I mean, from a legal standpoint, there should be no difficulties.
Mr. Chairman, the only situation that I see is that oftentimes the items that are scheduled for executive session surface during the regular meeting. Questions arise from some of the issues that are on the agenda that on the surface do not appear to be those sensitive to be discussed only in executive session. So it would only mean that there may be times when you come out of executive session, go into a regular meeting, and then move to go back into executive session.
No, absolutely, and we do that now. I mean, sometimes we'll find an item that comes up, and we can break then to go into executive session, or go at the end to executive session. So absolutely, we can break at any time to go into executive session once we voted as a board.
Well, just so we're aware that does happen.
Right. Okay. Okay, with that, I'll, Pam, if you could call a question.
Mrs. Robles.
Okay, what are we voting on?
Moving the meeting to 5 o'clock, starting at 5 o'clock.
Well, for the purpose of conducting an executive session is what I heard.
Oh, but executive session is part of the meeting.
Yes, ma'am. It certainly is.
Well, you stated that the meeting would have to convene at the beginning and then move into executive session.
That is correct. Although that shouldn't, I guess, if done correctly, wouldn't take much time.
Well, you know what? Before I vote, how many of the board members would find it difficult to make it at 5 rather than 5:30?
Well, wouldn't that be polling the board? I mean, why don't we just vote on it, and if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, doesn't.
It will. You have the votes.
Okay, go ahead and,
Mrs. Robles.
no.
Dr. Uxer.
Yes.
Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
No.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 1.9, board reports. Item 1.9.1, treasurer's report, none. Item 1.9.2, president's report. Item 1.9.2.1, as part of the president's report, Dr. Jeff Ling, Executive Vice President, Evergreen Solutions, LLC, will present an update on the job classification and compensation study.
Chair Fierro, members of the board, please come on up, Dr. Ling. Come on up. Do want to commend Dr. Ling and his firm. Dr. Ling serves as the Executive Vice President for Evergreen Solutions, and they have done a great job of working with our staff, our faculty, our administrators in conducting, as the board directed us, to move forward with a classification and compensation study at the institution. Went through an RFP process. Evergreen was selected. To date, they've done a great job. All of the members earlier that each of the constituency groups were part of the selection of Evergreen, and Josette Shaughnessy, our Associate Vice President, has been the point person to move this forward. And again, kudos to Mr. Gallardo and the work that the committee did with selecting Dr. Ling. Please, Dr. Ling.
All right, thank you, Dr. Schroeder, for those nice words. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I wanted to share with you a brief overview of what we'll be completing as we work with your staff over the coming months. Compensation classification study of this type includes two key components. We'll be looking at internal equity, in essence comparing how individuals are paid within the college that perform similar work, as well as external equity. We'll be taking a look at We'll be taking a look at how my skills would be valued in the marketplace. If I didn't work for El Paso Community College and I worked elsewhere, how would I be rewarded at those other organizations? There's three key phases, and I'll focus more on the first phase this evening because that's the phase that we're within currently, but I want to share all three with you as part of a precursor to our discussion this evening. The first phase is really about us learning in regards to you, or about you. That phase deals with outreach, where we come on site, we meet with your employees, we provide orientations. As part of that process, we tell employees what or how they can help us as we go through the process. We answer their questions, we interact with them directly, and I'll give you a few moments more details about that process. We also have focus groups, where employees can tell us about their work, what they feel like works and doesn't work at El Paso Community College from a compensation and classification standpoint. And then also we go through an interview process with your executive team or the cabinet that reports to the president of the college, and we ask them about what are their concerns as it relates to human resources. The second half of that first phase are the job assessment tools, and one of the previous presenters spoke about that's an ongoing process currently, and that's correct. That's where we survey all of your full-time staff and ask them about what they do on a daily, weekly, monthly, as well as annual basis. We ask them a series of standardized questions about the leadership they have to show, the relationships they have to maintain, the complexity of the work, the type of working conditions they work in, the financial instruments they might deal with, tools that they might deal with, really everything that makes up the complexity of a job in a modern workplace. And we ask all employees to participate that are full-time in that process. Faculty are being included in the compensation component, but we're not asking them to define how much time they spend teaching, how much time they spend on community service or in preparing presentations or other activities that might be involved on committees within the college. But for all your full-time professional and classified staff, they are being asked to participate in this 2-week process. Once we leave this phase, I'll be back to visit with you again to share with you what we've learned. In essence, we'll analyze that data. We'll be able to tell you a lot about the pros and cons about what you're doing currently. Then in the second phase, second major phase, we look externally. And this is where we take a look at how would I be compensated outside of the college, so that external equity component. And we'll be surveying other educational as well as non-educational local organizations that I might leave El Paso Community College and go to work for. It'll be a sample of your jobs that'll be included in that comparison, and we'll come back and visit with you again about here is how competitive you are vis-a-vis your peers present within the marketplace. We'll also look at benefits. We recognize that total compensation plays a major role today in an individual selecting where they might gain employment as well as they remain employed over time, or the retention part of that. So both of those elements will go into our computations and calculations. Then the third phase, I would imagine, will be of the greatest interest to the board as well as to employees. This is where we come back and share with you our recommendations. And so we'll look at a variety of solutions that might address the items that came about from Phase 1 and Phase 2. And we'll be visiting with you about the different alternatives that would be available to the college to address the needs that were identified throughout the process. We are firm believers there's not one size that fits all. We've worked with an extensive amount of colleges throughout the country. We've worked with 5 or 6 colleges here within the state of Texas. And what we find is the best solution is one that's custom created for each entity or organization that we work with. And so as we come back and have the discussion with you toward the end of this process, toward the end of the calendar year, beginning of next year, we'll have various alternatives we looked at. We'll share those with you, and then we'll share the one that we feel like best represents your needs, your resources, your capabilities, as well as moving forward, your future strategic interests as a college and based on where you're at. So that's the broad picture. Those are the 3 major phases that go into the process. We are in the 2/3 point of Phase 1. So we came on site. We conducted 120 sessions. And those 120 sessions included focus groups as well as orientations over a 1-week period, 5 full days, 4 people full-time at each campus, going out and meeting with individuals on those campuses to provide the orientations as well as to provide the focus groups. Some of those focus groups were quite small. They were more personal chats where we had 3 or 4 attendees that might have been present for that individual focus groups, where on other campuses that were larger, we might have had a room full. We might have had 20, 25 people present that interacted with us and gave suggestions as well as commented on what it was like to work for El Paso Community College. That information we're in the process of aggregating. So we're going through and looking at all of that content. Specifically, what we're looking for are patterns. We're looking for where multiple people on multiple campuses feel the same way or have the same concerns. And we'll be coming back to share that with you once we complete that process. Again, as mentioned before, we're in the JAT process, and that's fancy jargon for basically we're collecting that information, that survey on what people do within the college. And we're having a good response. We have a number that people can call, an email they can reach out to us on, as well as we track daily the response rate that we're receiving from your employees. And employees are very engaged in the process, and we gauge that not only by completions, but by the questions we're receiving. People are asking all types of questions about the tool. How can they complete it? We have a video that they can watch that instructs them on completion that's available through your intranet that IT was good enough to assist us with and make available to your employees. In addition, a number of employees attended some of those 120 sessions and received training as well. And we reached a little bit less than 1,000 employees when we went through those training sessions over the course of that week. And so we feel very good about the number of people that took us up on the proposition of coming, learning more about the process, but also learning about how to complete the tool. Moving forward, what we'll be looking at again are the pros and cons of what you have today. So we'll establish that baseline. Before we leave Phase 1, we'll provide a deliverable, a written deliverable that'll indicate these are the strengths and weaknesses of what you're doing now. Almost everywhere we work, there's things that are working very, very well and things that could be improved. And so that's the purpose of that document, really to establish that we have the right assumptions, but also what we'll be looking at moving forward into that 2nd and 3rd phase. To reach this point in the process, I would be remiss without thanking a variety of people here in El Paso. I can tell you we do this type of work all over the country. We've done hundreds of these type studies over the last 5 or 6 years, almost 1,000 in the course of my career, and I can tell you you have a wonderful group of people here. They embraced us from day one. They were extremely hospitable. Everyone from the ambassadors that helped us on campus to the techs that helped us set up the audiovisual equipment that we needed in your various sites, through the employees that came and said at the end of a session, if it was before lunch, do you have lunch plans? Let me tell you where you need to go to find a decent lunch around campus. And if you don't want a sandwich, here's something else that you might want to try. I'd also be remiss without mentioning the efforts of Josette and her staff. Her staff did an incredible amount of work to get us to this point in the process. I can tell you rarely do 120 sessions go as well as the sessions went here. There's always someone that ends up at the wrong place, or we don't have the right map, or the door's not unlocked. And I can tell you that her staff did an incredible job of making sure we went to the right place, we had good attendance, we had water to drink during the session, and they did a wonderful job. And so I want to personally thank them for the efforts that they made in making sure that we reached this point and we had the information that we need to move the process forward. So those were the comments that I wanted to share with you this evening. I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you might have or talk further about where we're at in the process, and I look forward to visiting with you again as we move through this process.
Dr. Graham?
My question is, are you going to also be looking at the job descriptions to make sure that after you speak with people that we match the job description to what they're actually doing, if not to update it?
Yes, ma'am. A key part of the JAT in Section 2 asks individuals to list all the tasks that they're engaged in, and they can actually provide up to 25 tasks. And then they indicate the 5 that are most important, then they indicate the percentage of time they're spending on each. We recognize that your job descriptions could use some additional detail, and that one of the top 5 concerns we heard from your employees was that they feel like the job description doesn't capture the breadth of what they're engaged in. And so the JAT is key in us collecting that information. Once we have that information, we do analyze it before we simply put it into a new job description. And we go through a process of validation as well. And so that'll be over the next several weeks that we'll be engaged in that effort after we complete the JAT collection. Then in Phase 3, before we come back and visit with you about the report and the recommendations, we'll have finalized those job descriptions based on the findings and recommendations that are coming out of the study. And why that occurs a little bit later in the process is, depending on the recommendations we make, we could be increasing the number of classes you have or decreasing. And we want to make sure we have a complete library of those descriptions before we visit with you about that.
Thank you.
Ms. Solis?
Thank you. Dr. Ling, would you please remind me where you're based out of?
We're based in Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay, all right. I have a couple of questions. The first is, as part of your data gathering phase, in addition to conducting these sessions and interviewing employees and whatnot, do you also review tangible documents, for example, the contracts that we have here at this institution? Is that part of the information gathering?
Yes, ma'am. Before we came on site, we requested that Josette and her staff assemble a variety of documents. And the documents entailed almost anything that would touch compensation and classification here at the college. And they did a wonderful job of that as well. Over the course of weeks it took for them to assemble the information that we needed, they put together that information that we could review, as well as an employee database. Everyone that worked here at the point in which the study began, how long they've been here, how they're compensated, the classification and department that they fall in, all of that information was aggregated for our staff to review before coming on site. And we'll continue to use that information as we go forward.
So you'll have before you whether this individual or a certain group of individuals have a 1-year employment contract or a 2-year employment contract, correct?
Yes, correct.
And then, for example, when you do the external equity part of your assessment, is that something when you are trying to find comparables of the same similarly situated institutions, of whether they have employment contracts, or those the things that you compare, or?
Those are in the set of things that we compare. We typically begin that comparison by the tasks. And so by the tasks. We start off by asking your peers to identify the task and their position and the quality of the match to the tasks that are performed by by individuals here at El Paso. That's the first benchmark that we look at for comparison purposes. The second would be if their scheduling is the same, if they work on a 9-month, 10-month, 12-month year, and how that might vary. And if they have a 38 or 35-hour week versus a 40-hour week, all of those factors. And then, as a secondary concern, if you will, but not unimportant concern, we would take a look at how much guarantee or what the degree to guarantee they have from a contractual standpoint. So are they renewed annually? Are they renewed every 2 years? Is it a situation where they're completely at will? And so we would ask that as part of the data collection process as well.
Okay, and then one more question has to do with the compensation portion of your services. Are you going back in time, or are you just focusing current? Because I think it's important to have a historical perspective of I guess where we are today, and so I guess that's my question: is if you are going back, or are you just looking at current data and how they got there?
I guess I'd want to answer your question in 2 parts. One would be, we will collect data in a snapshot in time for your organization as well as your peers. And so we will ask questions in regards to what you've done in the past, what increases you've given, what were the percentage of those increases, how were those increases distributed. But our primary interest is in looking at what you have today. But in looking toward the future, if we find that inequities are present And those inequities occurred because of the past, and that would be the primary.
What about inequities?
Yes, the inequities. I'm sorry if I misspoke. The inequities we would assume would have occurred from the past. And so if we find inequities, there are a variety of tests that we do in regards to where an employee should fall in their current range. We wouldn't go back and attempt to identify the action, the individual, the step that the college did or did not take that resulted in that discrepancy, but we would look toward the future. We would look at what does the college need to do to close that gap in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? No?
All right. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much.
If I may approach the board, wanted to thank, because this, the outreach to the employees regarding this compensation study has been quite time-consuming and successful thanks to many people. My staff has been tremendous, and I do want to recognize Ms. Ryan and Human Resources for helping out providing the data first during the summer. And I also want to recognize Dr. Ridon for supporting us with the communication through the web to the employees. So Marco Fernandez's team, Pat Ebert's team, truly have been very instrumental in helping us kicking off this process. So I want to make sure that I did that. Thank you. And if I'm forgetting anybody, please forgive me.
Item 1.9.2.2, Ms. Joyce Cordell, Director of Marketing and Community Relations, will provide an update on the college district's marketing plan.
Good evening, Dr. Serrata, Mr. Fierro, and members of the board. Thank you for having me tonight. Oftentimes, we are asked, how do we know if our marketing is working? Well, the only way we can calculate that is by using enrollment numbers. And tonight, I'm going to show you and compare some enrollment figures from summer and fall enrollment statistics from years past. But first, I want to talk to you about marketing's role in the college's strategic enrollment management plan. To quote our very own president, Dr. Serrata, strategic enrollment management is everyone's responsibility, and it yields best results when it is spearheaded by the leader. As part of the Strategic Enrollment Task Force, marketing plays a major role in bringing students to EPCC. 4 elements bring a strong enrollment plan together: marketing, recruitment, retention, and data. Marketing has a fun part, where we're able to use a variety of methods to attract potential students to our college. We advertise on a variety of media types, such as the movie theaters, billboards, social media, and on-site promotional sites. We are constantly developing strong partnerships with media and within the community. We are vigilant in posting on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Marketing works closely with the recruitment office via the Strategic Enrollment Task Force. Recently, we worked with the President's Office and the recruitment on adoption of Douglas Elementary. And earlier this month, recruitment represented EPCC at an education fair for the Housing Authority. Being on the Enrollment Task Force, marketing has the opportunity to work with the retention aspect of the enrollment equation too. Marketing promotes programs such as the Mentoring Program and Texas Completes. Texas Completes is a student success initiative spearheaded by 8 Texas community colleges, EPCC being one of them. Marketing also talks to current students when we have various live radio remotes at the campuses where we promote mini-mesters and registration. The task force has a synergistic quality that brings us all together with a common goal: more enrollments. Marketing uses data to learn what best vehicles to use to target our audience. We know our audience is 80.3% Hispanic, speaking both English and Spanish. The average age of an EPCC student is 23 years old. We have first-generation students and students coming from low-income households. Marketing uses demographic data from the different medias, TV, radio, online, and we match the demographics with what our target audience prefers. Then that's how we make our selection. We also look at our other community colleges and how they are recruiting and marketing to their students. Those benchmarks help us see the advertising trends that are working at their community colleges. Our current state of enrollment for this fall is 28,262 credit students. Our marketing strategies are trying to pull in new students to attend EPCC. This chart shows the summer enrollment of first-time in college and first-time transfers to EPCC. Since summer 2012, our percentages have increased and are now at 14.9%. 95% of these students are 18 to 36 years old. This group of 18 to 36-year-old students increased even more so in fall 2014, and that's when marketing stepped up our efforts in the enrollment management process. Just one of our marketing methods was an iPad giveaway during live radio remotes at various campuses. We generated a lot of social media traffic for these events, as well as a lot of foot traffic on the campuses. Sorry. Where am I? Okay. As you can see on this graph, the first time in college and the first time transfers to EPCC this fall are up 21% from 19.7% 2 years ago. Wait, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Okay. Now this graph is a very unique graph, which we give credit to Christy Frescas in institutional research for compiling the information and creating it. A capture rate is the percent of students who attend EPCC or UTEP during the fall semester right after they finish high school. Okay, so this capture rate for fall 2014 is the percentage of students who graduated high school during the 2013-14 school year, then attended EPCC or UTEP during fall 2014. But they have to have graduated high school within 365 days of attending EPCC or UTEP during a fall semester. In this chart, we are looking at the last 4 years. We looked at all the graduates from the ISDs and found the percentage of students who came to UTEP compared to EPCC. In essence, more ISD graduates are choosing EPCC over UTEP. We broke it down a little further in this chart. Here's a look at the top 3 ISDs, El Paso, Socorro, and Isleta. This shows that out of all of our first-time EPCC students, 80% of them came from these 3 ISDs. We also asked our graduates how they heard about EPCC in our exit survey, and this is what their responses were. Television, 30%, internet, 21%, radio, 11%, billboards, 25%, and cinema, 10%. This was just our second set of graduates that we surveyed. However, it does show that our audience is seeing and hearing our commercials and ads on the venues that we place them in. Presently, we're planning a survey with IR where we're going to ask current students the same questions to find out what kind of marketing or media we will use to best capture them. These same questions will become standard questions on surveys beginning in spring 2015 on the student survey that is given to all students that enter EPCC. Our most recent survey, our most recent campaign, rather, ran until classes began this fall, which served as a reminder to students to register or pay for their tuition. This graph shows a clear uptrend that our campaigns are helping with the increase in enrollments during the time in which they ran. The graph covers 5 years in fall registration periods. It's color-coded, and the fall 2014 is a light blue line. In the same 2-week period of our marketing blitz, we had 36,538 hits on our home website, and over 30,000 of them were on our registration page. All of our ads and commercials drive our students to our homepage. The last few slides show a definite correlation between our marketing campaign and enrollment numbers. This graph shows us the same uptrend but gives us the bottom line during those same time periods. 2 weeks before the payment deadline and the start of classes of each semester, marketing conducts a registration blitz. A blitz is a very focused, intense, and short marketing campaign. In this instance, on the right, fall 2014, our campaign began on August 11th and ended when classes began August 25th. So when the marketing campaign began, the enrollment number at 7:30 a.m. in the morning on August 11th was 22,243 students. And when classes began and our campaign ended on August 25th, again at 7:30 in the morning, the enrollment was at 27,583. This is a difference of 5,340 students, or a 24% increase. That means the college generated $6.2 million during the 2-week period of our registration blitz. Last year, EPCC's ads ran millions of impressions on the internet. Our commercials were aired over 12,000 times on English and Spanish-speaking TV and radio stations. We were on all the major movie screens in the city. Needless to say, we were quite busy, but we were loving every minute of it. As I mentioned earlier, we hosted promotions such as the mini iPad giveaway. They generated a lot of positive feedback and results. Students inquiring about the contest allowed us to tell them about registering in the upcoming mini-mesters. They gave us face-to-face time, and it wasn't just fun, it was purposeful fun. We would oftentimes pair up with recruitment and other programs so they can tell them about their events and promoting their classes. We've moved more to online ads and less paper. We're starting to get more into the elementary and high schools, and we're working closely with all the cogs of the enrollment wheel that keeps the college rolling. Here's some examples of what we're working on with the elementary and high schools. The poster on the left is a proof of what we want to distribute to the high school counselor offices. The two pictures on the right are samples of stickers that will go in the sticker machine at Douglas Elementary. We're working on getting those stickers in all the elementary schools. Now, this ad is just an example of kind of thinking outside of the box. It's an ad that's placed inside all 167 city buses. We created this particular ad for Youth Build, which is funded by a grant from the Department of Labor and overseen by Luz Taboada in Workforce Development. EPCC helps students earn their GED and then learn the construction trade. This is a billboard downtown on I-10. Hispanic Heritage Month ends today and was filled with a number of cultural, educational, and political events. The ad on the left was placed in the Las Cruces High School graduation program, and the one on the right is in the East Lake High School football program for the fall 2014 season. Here we have a couple of ads that have been placed on our EPCC vans that travel from campus to campus. And on the right is one ad out of 52 placed in El Diario. Now, we got the idea for this commercial from one of Dr. Serrata's favorite quotes: "The more you learn, the more you earn." Take a look.
The more you learn, the more you earn. That's why over 30,000 students are learning how bright their futures will be at El Paso Community College. With over 160 career choices, you can shape an education that fits you. Early morning, evening, weekend, and online classes, plus campuses everywhere. Choose a degree, a certificate, or transfer to a university. We offer the best value for accredited courses. We're making a difference. Everyone can learn to earn at El Paso Community College. The best place to start. Register now at epcc.edu.
The next commercial premiered in the theater this summer, and it has a cinematic feel as we used an aerial drone camera, a student choreographer, and an all EPCC student cast. Students had to audition to play a part of this epic production.
How can you tell an EPCC student? They're happier because they have more opportunity to try new things and discover what they really want to be. They're better off because EPCC offers the best tuition rates. We're publicly funded, so your education comes first. Start here, then skip ahead to a career or transfer to a four-year university. It's your choice. Dance through life. 30,000 students can't be wrong. Choose El Paso Community College, the best place to start. Register at epcc.edu.
All of our marketing efforts takes a lot of coordination, communication, and hard work. My staff is the best team I've ever worked with, and I'm proud to be part of it. Please let me publicly thank Letty Jones, my assistant, Jim Heine, marketing specialist, Luis Flores, graphic designer, Monica Tarin, graphic designer, Michelle Houston, special events coordinator, Fernie Garcia, photographer, Leanne Wade, assistant, and she's not pictured here, but we have a new intern. Her name's Tammy Hermanson. And their hard work does not go unnoticed. Last academic year alone, our team has nationally been recognized for our nail technology billboard with a gold award from Collegiate Advertising Awards. The graphics team won a silver and a gold for their design of the Student Culinary Services logo from the National Council on Marketing and Public Relations Medallion Awards. And our movie trailer TV commercial won bronze in the Collegiate Advertising Awards. Once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cordell. Any questions? Thank you.
I do have, first of all, let me preface my question with a comment. As you know, I do attend as many of the community college activities, and every time that we have the media, we're not prepared to address our activity in Spanish. I am often called at the last minute, and I don't mind it, except that if we know that Telemundo's going to be there and that Channel 26 is going to be there, I believe that the press release should be in Spanish as well as in English. I see that you have a great staff. Do we have on your staff persons that can write the news releases in Spanish?
I'm glad you asked that, Ms. Robles, because on today's agenda we have a new position, a marketing specialist that, with your approval, will start on Monday that has these skills, perfect Spanish in writing, editing, and speaking, ability to be in front of camera, and hopefully we'll be able to hire him once we get your approval. And with that in mind, that we were hoping to have that, to use him for that particular purpose, for camera interviews, press releases in Spanish, promotional items in Spanish, and that. But we do have other Spanish speakers in our office, but their specialties lie elsewhere.
Okay, now that we're on the subject of the fact that we need to communicate in Spanish in El Paso, given that the demographics that you have given, 83% of our population is Spanish-speaking or identified as Hispanic, and first of all, let me commend you on some of the very creative media products that your staff has produced. But I believe that, and I have spoken to you and to other members of the cabinet in the past, that I recognize that we have limited funds available to be able to compete with all the competition that's out there as far as higher education is concerned. But I feel that we might want to consider hiring a public relations firm that is specifically focused on marketing to the Latino market. I saw an article in the business section of the El Paso Times this Sunday that identified the fact that the title is "As Hispanic Market Evolves, So Do Advertising Campaigns," and it does make reference to one of our higher education entities that have recognized that. And so, Mr. President, I would like to recommend that you and the staff research the feasibility of hiring a public relations firm so that the limited money that we have is really effectively placed where it will benefit us in getting the word out about our institution.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, can you please put up the Hispanic Fact Pack, please? In some research that we have access to from Advertising Age, the 11th Annual Hispanic Fact Pack. Yeah, that one. We were able to... Jim, can you give them the paper? I don't know if you can see it on your screen. But this particular... The first screen talks about how Hispanic... how we took a look at the Hispanic population nationally and their preferences. The preferences 18 and up on how they want to look at media, different types of media, reading, watching TV, listening to radio, and when they're online. And the responses were like only in English. For television, listening to radio, and online, where the highest responses was only in English. Watching television, 33.4%, listening to radio, 28.9%, online, 53.4%. And then the second response was mostly in English, but some in Spanish. That was the second highest response, 31.9%, 29.9%, 19.6%. And then third, mostly in Spanish, but some English, 14.9%, 21.1%, and watching television, 20%, 12.5%. So in our marketing campaigns, we cover the Spanish in print, the Spanish television, and the Spanish radio, Spanish-speaking radio media. And from the national standard here, from ages 18 and up, it seems to be their most preferred type of media. The second, that's the one slide that I had prepared.
So in other words, you are reaching out to, your data, your information to the board is that you and your team are reaching out and effectively to the Spanish-speaking population.
Yes.
And it is either comparable or if not a little bit more than the national average.
Yes.
Based on this Hispanic language preference, right?
Yes,
okay.
that's what I'm saying.
I just had a quick question.
May I?
Are you okay? Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Will
Ms.
you
Robles.
finish? No, it's okay. Go ahead. We're still on your topic.
Well, I was going to mention that it doesn't matter whether an Hispanic consumes their information mostly in English or as a preferred language of communication, but they're still Hispanics. And what I'm trying to get at is that these media companies have found a way to reach, in whatever language, this targeted population. That's what I was getting at. In other words, I understand that not everybody consumes their information in Spanish, but even those that consume their information in English, they're still Hispanics. That was my point.
Great. Ms. Solis?
So anyhow, thank you, Ms. Cordell. I think your presentation was very informative, and I realize that you and your team do a tremendous amount of work, and kudos to the awards that you've garnered thus far. My question has to do with the chart, the pie chart, because I love these pie charts, on how did you hear about EPCC, and this was the spring of 2014, and it's broken down into the various mediums. And I'm wondering, when you get this information, when your team gets that, really 3% of the students, our current students, or at the time in the spring of 2014, heard about EPCC through the newspaper, and then the second lowest would be through the cinema. Do you then, what do you do with this information? Do you go back to your drawing board and reconfigure, okay, well, now that we have this, maybe we do more billboards, or maybe we do more television, or I'm just curious once you have this information, what you do with it, what you think about doing with it, and has anything been done with that since
Definitely.
then?
That's the idea of looking at the research and tailoring our marketing campaigns to see what our audience is looking for and how they watch their media and how they prefer to consume it. And we target our media, or put our ads where they're going to be watching it.
Because I just remember we've approved, I don't know, a certain amount of monies, expenditures to advertise in the newspapers. Or I remember the cinema, and there was there's certain cinemas that control the market, and I'm just wondering, just number-wise, if that was a decrease based on this, or if next year when we see the figures, it'll be a decrease.
Yes.
Okay.
There has been a definite decrease in that this year.
Well, thank you very much.
No, thank
Any
you.
other questions? Oh.
I have a question. So if enrollment increases is kind of the gauge to see if this is effective, Dr. Serrata, my question is to you. Have we looked at the data to see if the amount of money that we're spending has made significant gains in enrollment?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Graham. And Joyce, I thank you as well, you and your team, for a great presentation and digging deeper and deeper into the data. A couple of things that we see, Dr. Graham, with regards to marketing as well as overall enrollment trends. We have an inverse relationship. Community colleges traditionally have an inverse relationship with the economy. When the economy is suffering, our enrollments surge. And so as a result, you saw the college peak in enrollment in the fall of 2011 in the peak of the economic downturn that we had nationally as well as in our state. As the economy continues to improve, what we've seen is a flattening and slight decline of enrollment. Now, I bring to the board's attention that part of that was planned for. We had a SACS finding, and we were placed on warning due to the amount of full-time faculty that the college had. And we had to do two things: increase the number of full-time faculty, as well as in some occasions decrease the offerings at specific campuses. The same semester, we eliminated late registration. And so by doing those two items, we had an expected enrollment decline. The next fall, which it was this current fall, we have seen in this past summer as well, we've seen a leveling off. Unfortunately, you're absolutely right. The trend is still not where we believe it should be. It is still a downward trend, but it has leveled off. The percentage we saw, I think, a 2% total enrollment decline this particular fall. When we study the marketing efforts, and Ms. Cordell did a great job of breaking down and looking at recruitment, retention, traditionally institutions of higher ed spend the bulk of their marketing on recruitment. And what we learned from the data is that's approximately 20% of our enrollment. And we traditionally put in a significant amount of our marketing dollars towards trying to recruit a new class of students. And so Joyce and her team have done a great job working with the Enrollment Task Force, Vice President Gonzalez, Vice President Smith, and their teams, working with Dr. Iroan's team as well as Mr. Candela's. They've created a task force to look at all of the different initiatives that we have in place and to really start to look at if 80% of our enrollment is current students. And this is a national trend that institutions forget to market to who they already have. And it's actually much more cost effective to market to the students you already have than to try and recruit new students. And so again, pushing information out based on the data and the websites, through the web, through online, through Facebook, through Twitter, and the other venues are much more cost effective. And so again, Ms. Cordell and her team are continuing to look at the data. It's very difficult to say, to provide a correlation, or even a correlation we can provide, but a causation to say if we hadn't increased our marketing, then the enrollment decline could be higher. So it's a difficult question to answer, but we're breaking down the data further and further. What we've seen from the current data, it appears exactly what Ms. Cordell presented, that our first-time in college student, the new student, is actually increasing from year to year. We had a slight dip in the fall of 12, and we've now seen that recover, and we're getting back to where we were, which leads to the question, is it a retention issue? And so the factors of retention aren't just the current students that we had. We increased graduation by over 400, raw number, about 10%. We graduated 4,000 students in fiscal year 13. In fiscal year 14, we've graduated 4,400 students. We saw, I'm sure several of you saw the article on UTEP's enrollment, that they had increased for the 16th straight year. It was an increase of 76 students, but I would take an increase of 1 student, and that's the role. But they had 1,878 transfer students from El Paso Community College. And so what we have to look at is not just a simple, here were the current students we had last fall, and here are the current students we have this fall. You pull out the success rates from that. And I want to make sure that we're doing that in addition to what students are not only attending UTEP, but maybe attending another university. And we'll do that through the National Student Clearinghouse. Once we have all of that data, and the task force is crunching that with Dr. Kay's assistance, then we can truly see what retention rate was. And if we do have a program, a specific program, or a specific campus that we're seeing concerns, then we start initiatives on those particular areas. It's a difficult question, Dr. Graham. I do a lot of kudos to Ms. Cordell and her team for pulling as much data as that they did pull forward, and there's more that we need to dig, and we'll continue to dig further on that.
In the data that they were looking at, did they look at what is being used by the other colleges in advertising and how they're recruiting students?
Yeah, Ms.
Yes.
Cordell, please.
Actually, there's a study here that's just for marketing and recruiting practices. It's a benchmark report for 4-year and 2-year institutions that's conducted by Noel Levitz. And so they talk about the online ads, the radio ads. It's 63% use radio ads of community colleges. They find them very or somewhat effective. Print, very or somewhat effective. So these are what's called benchmarks in that one slide that under marketing. And we do study these. We're part of TACM, which is Texas Association of Community Colleges Marketers. And we have forum discussions about different things on how they market and what works for them. Are you using Pandora? No, we're not because of this or that, or how are you paying for Facebook ads? So we have that conversation going, and we're trying to learn as much as we can and share information. So,
Ms. Cordell,
yes.
Off of your media budget, and if you don't have this number, maybe you can get it back to us. What percentage are you spending in only Spanish media, whether it be television, radio, newsprint?
The percentage, I don't have that. However, okay. In the marketing plan that you have before you, in the very back is I think it's 16 or 20-page spreadsheet. And it has subtotals. It has every single ad that we've spent, every impression that we've had online, and it has a subtotal, and it has a grand total of what we spent. Now, what the grand total is not what's in my budget, okay? The reason why is because throughout the year, we've gotten additional funds from the President's office. Some programs will forward some money for them to get additional advertising for their program and things of that nature. So, but that figure in the back of this book completely balances with what's in Banner, and that was from last fiscal year. But I will get that figure for you.
No, I was just wondering, because on this Ad Age slide that you're showing us, I just wanted to make sure that we were, more or less using those numbers as a guide.
Yes, and I can get the figures that I use, and then I can compare them to the national average.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you very much to you and your team for a great presentation and all the great work you do for the college.
Thank you.
I will be brief, Chair.
Oh, we haven't gotten to you yet?
Yeah, no, we haven't gotten to me. Those were better parts of my report.
You don't have any donations, do you?
I'm sure I will be donating to CSA, so Ms. Jauregui will visit with Pam on my contribution as well. I do want to report to the board and thank Ms. Solis as Secretary of the Board for representing the college along with Dr. Giron at the University of Texas at El Paso's University Partners Convocation. It was held on September 30th. Some of the board, which I'll mention shortly, was in D.C., but Ms. Solis and Dr. Giron attended the convocation, received the University Partners Award on behalf of the college district. I would present it to you and the board members for your review. On the back, you'll also see the partner inscription with regards to El Paso Community College specific. They honored 86 partners. A century of those partnerships, 86 were honored, and we certainly are excited to be one of those 86 partners that were recognized. We were 17th as far as the listing, which are alpha. Also, the 5th annual EPCC Diversity Programs Buddy Walk was held at the Valle Verde campus. This is another not only marketing event, but another contribution to our community that Ms. Cordell helps lead the college in. That was held on the 4th on a Saturday. The walk raised just under $10,000. A majority of the money raised supports scholarships for our students with disabilities. It is the only internally funded scholarship in the history of the college to benefit disabled students. We're certainly proud of that. And again, we thank Ms. Cordell for her leadership and her team and everyone else that's involved. Over 20 students have received scholarships. Some of the monies also benefits the community through the Down Syndrome Association of El Paso. And for the first time this year, some of this money will return to the college in the form of a fund for children and adults with Down syndrome to take continuing education classes at the college. I joined the chair, Mr. Fierro, Dr. Carmen Olivas-Graham, as well as Mrs. Robles at the Excelencia in Education event in Washington, D.C., Celebración de Excelencia and Examples of Excelencia. That was on the 30th. And I was fortunate to represent the college in presenting on a panel with regards to cost of higher education at the Educational Policy Institute that was held in San Antonio on October the 3rd. And Chairman and members of the board, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Zarata. That is a beautiful plaque, by the way.
Item 1.10, consent docket.
Move to approve.
Includes items 3.2 and 8.2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Uxer. Aye. Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Dr. Grant. Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 2.0, administration. None. Item 3.1, full-time institutionally funded actions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Uxer.
Aye.
Ms. Solis?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Mr. Fierro?
Aye.
Item 3.3, information items, no action is required. There are no items under Section 4.0, financial services. Item 5.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval to award a contract for the replacement of the theater lighting system at the EPCC Trans Mountain Campus Forum Theater to Texas Scenic Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $224,923.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mrs. Robles?
Aye.
Dr. Uxer? Ms. Solis?
Aye.
Dr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty?
Aye.
Mr. Fierro?
Aye. Mr. Townsend, would you mind telling us about this lighting? Since you wore that spiffy bow tie today.
The lighting system at the Forum Theater that we have right now is antiquated. It was put in the 1970s. One of the interesting stories about that lighting system is when I was teaching at Bowie High School, that same exact model of lighting system was one that I replaced at Bowie in 1994 because it was antiquated then. We really needed to replace the system for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're holding it together with spit and glue, basically. But number two, it was mainly for our students because lighting has become very high-tech today. And so we have to make sure that the equipment that our students are using actually are going to be the kind of equipment that will be used at the university that they go to. We've been really pushing completion with all of our students in technical theater and theater production. And so when they do leave here and they go on, whether it's to San Diego State or Bowling Green, which a lot of our students are going to those two universities now, or the University of Texas at El Paso or NMSU, we've got to make sure when they walk out of our theater, they are using the same type of equipment that's being used at the universities. And presently, they're not. And so with the new lighting system that we're going to be getting in, it will be as good, if not even better, than what some of the universities have, which I think is going to help us attract more technical theater students here, but also increase the quality of the work that our students are doing, as well as the quality of their expertise when they go on to the four-year institutions.
That's great. I got to meet one of your and they were very, very excited about the opportunity of getting to work with computer-generated backgrounds. And I thought that was wonderful.
That's a new technology that we just got the equipment purchased for, so that we are using more projection and more computer-generated image, which is something that's very, very new, very cutting edge, that's being done in the professional theaters. And it's another area that, once again, we want our students to be trained in so that when they go on, they're able to use that technology and that expertise.
Great.
Have you and your students had any opportunity to talk to the people doing the master plan?
Yes, we have, and I'm actually working on ideas for that regarding performing space throughout the entire college district. I really think that, as we start looking at facilities like the Forum Theater, we need to be looking at facilities that are going to not just serve the different performing arts programs we have, like music and dance and theater, but we need to look sort of district-wide. And this is my personal opinion, we're a college district. We never decentralized. So, we need to look at serving every single campus, whether it's Northwest, whether it's Mission del Paso, whether it's Rio Grande. And so the plan that I've sort of been working on that I'm going to present to Dr. Serrata very soon for him to do whatever he would want with it, is how do we get facilities out at these campuses so that we're able to have theater, dance, music, as well as speaking events throughout the entire college district, not just at, say, Trans Mountain campus or not just at Valle Verde campus, but throughout the entire community. And I think I have a pretty good idea, but I'm gonna get it down, and I promise I'm going to get it to you. I've just been really swamped this year with the start of the school year.
My problem is why you're saying we're replacing this equipment from the 1970s. Is there anything in the master plan or anything that you're proposing to where we look at this like on a 5-year basis or a 6-year basis, to where this equipment is updated not every 30 years, but every once in a while so that the students can
If the
stay
college
up to
had actually an artistic director, that would actually be done, because that's one of the things that actually needs to happen. This lighting system, the average lighting system today, high-tech system, because it's a lot of computer generation that takes place, it has a lifespan of about 10 years, maybe if you're really, really careful, 15 years. We should applaud ourselves here at EPCC. That lighting system has a life expectancy of 12 years, and we've been using it since the 1970s, and we're still running lights there. So we've done a really great job with this equipment, but we should really be changing it out as it becomes obsolete so that our students are always having the best equipment to work on, so that when they go out, they're going to represent us well, but they're also going to have the knowledge to really do the work that they should be doing at the university level.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you, Mr. Towns.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
thank
and
you
we
very
thank you
much.
for all your support for the performing arts here, because you guys are really helping us out a lot. So thank you very much.
2030.
Item 6.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval of a 6-month extension of a contract with EBSCO Industries Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Move to approve?
Second.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Uxer. Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 6.2, consideration and deliberation on the acceptance of a grant award from the Texas Workforce Commission for training Del Sol Medical Center employees in the amount of $155,599.
Move to
Motion
approve.
approved.
Second?
That's the reason we should do it.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Uxer. Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye. Before we move on, Mr. Smith, good. First of all, thank you very much for helping us with this grant. But secondly, what are they going to be training on?
So this grant was put together by Ms. Soraya Hajar. I'd like to recognize the folks that helped put it together, Ms. Marta De La Fuente, Ms. Kathy Lopez, and Dean Paula Mitchell, along with our grants folks. So we've got over almost 250 employees at Del Sol that need to be trained in a variety of things. Some are new employees, some just need additional skill sets. So it's a hard question to answer. We've got over 22 different subjects that we're going to be teaching for them. But it's basically to increase their skill levels so that they qualify for higher wage jobs.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. Dr. Sonata, this year we seem to have acquiring more and more grants. Is it just my imagination? Or?
No, it's purposeful. A lot of credit to Mr. Smith and his team, Ms. Lopez, and all of their staffs for partnering with Workforce Solutions, with Ms. Wilson and her team, as well as with our business and industry partners since January of this year, when Mr. Smith has taken over Workforce and Continuing Ed. We've acquired nearly $800,000 of grants since the first of the year. So a lot of kudos to him and his team for the great work that they've put forward.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Item 6.3, consideration and deliberation on the approval of the Socorro Early College High School interlocal agreement.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is that a new MOU or?
Mr. Smith, do you mind briefing the board on the new MOU and what we're looking at moving forward?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. And I too, Dr. Graham, would like to thank our Socorro partners for being here. If we could recognize them one more time for taking time out of their schedules to be with us this evening.
Thank you for being here. Absolutely.
So,
And they're here back-to-back on board meetings because they were at the board meeting last night.
Last night, yeah, we were kind of joking about that before the meeting. So
this one's easy. You're in the audience.
Each time we do a new early college high school, we generate an MOU with that school district because each early college high school has its unique flavor. This particular one, we're being proactive. This MOU is a proactive step for preparation of the designation application for the school within a school model at Socorro High School. And so that designation application will be submitted in November, and having an MOU in place is now part of TEA's requirements to be designated as an early college high school.
So this is going to be like the one we just opened at Burgess?
Correct. Very
No,
similar
it's going to be
model.
better.
This would be our 8th early college high school. We certainly appreciate Dr. Espinosa and his team, the partnership that we have with Socorro Independent School District, and we look forward to expanding and having it at Socorro High School. Very excited that it's going to be a school within a school model at Socorro High School, to really show that if you raise the expectations for all students, then they'll rise and exceed those expectations.
I'd also like to recognize Dean Susana Rodarte. She's our liaison for this particular early college high school, and her assistant, Amy Harris. So they've done a great deal of work with our high school partners to get this to where we need your approval tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Uxer.
How you doing on your
Ms.
shishi
Solis.
keys?
Dr. Graham.
Abstain because I work for the district of Socorro.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye. How you guys doing on your
Mr.
shishi
Fierro.
keys?
Aye.
Item 7.1, consideration and deliberation on the approval of continuing education tuition rates for new courses.
Vote to approve?
Second.
Got a bunch of new judges coming on that are going to be in your area.
Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
We're moving forward with
Dr. Uxer. Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye.
Item 8.1, consideration and deliberation on the acceptance of a cooperative agreement from the University of Texas at San Antonio and the U.S. Small Business Administration in the amount of $369,737.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is wrong with Houston School. That was pretty cool.
Questions? Mrs. Robles.
Aye.
Dr. Uxer. Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Dr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
Mr. Fierro.
Aye. Mr. Smith, can you give us a little overview of this grant, please?
I'd be happy to, and I'd like to recognize the folks involved, Ms. Kathy Lopez, of course, Mr. Joe Ferguson, who heads up our Small Business Development Center. I don't know if he's in the audience now, but instrumental. So this is a continuation grant. We've been running the Small Business Development Center for many, many years, and so it's part federal money, part state money, but it allows us to serve the small businesses that need assistance in getting set up and working with their way through the federal contracting system and those sorts of things. Joe Ferguson and his crew are doing an incredible job, well over $11 million of impact to the local community based on the grant work that they do and the work with small businesses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Move to adjourn.
Would you like to go into executive session?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
The board
What's
will
up?
now go into closed for
Executive session?
executive session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to deliberate on the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property as authorized by Section
Well, that's
551.072 of the Texas Government Code, to consult with legal counsel regarding pending, contemplated, or threatened litigation where settlement offers is authorized by Section 551.0711, or on a matter in which the duty of legal counsel arises under Section 551.0712 of the Code, to deliberate on the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee is authorized by Section 551.074 of the Code, and to deliberate regarding college district security as authorized by Section 551.076 of the Code.
I'm sorry, what?
Huh? I get distracted too.